So this is kind of crazy, but I'm here in Petaca, March 22nd, I think. And there's snow on the ground, and it's predicted to rain and snow for the next 2 days. So this is kind of a crazy trip. I don't know how good it's going to be for making a video, but I came back to the same spot where I found a bunch of columbites last time. And it's going to get dark here pretty quick, so I'm just going to dig a few places here and then hunker down with my dogs in the car and hope for the best tomorrow, that I won't get too much ice and too much snow, and I'll be able to do some rockhounding tomorrow as well, but we'll see. This is a pretty good, it's a pretty good hit here. The ground is really soft here. In fact, I've got some standing water in the bottom of the hole. But hopefully this guy will come up pretty quick. My goal was to try to figure out where these things are coming from, if I can locate the source of this pod. I think these all weathered out from the same pod. Let's it's right that direction. Still. Oh, something else has come out of the hole here. Something else has come out. Yeah, it's in this hand. It's not very much. The big one's still in the hole. Boy, everything is just mud right now. Oop, it's stuck. There we go. It's, once again, it's stuck. Oh, must be a little one in the middle of that mud clot. Here it is. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to wash this off later to even see what it is. And get back here after that big guy. Or maybe it's a bunch of little guys, who knows. There it is. Ooh, that's a big one. Oh, there's more down here. Oh, well, this is a big crystal here. Wow. And there's more down there. So let me put this one away and see. Yeah, it's still this direction. I may be into a really nice pod of these things. If it weren't so darn messy down here, I would be tempted to kind of dig these things out very carefully and expose them in situ, because that's always interesting. There it is, another big crystal. Yeah, another honker. And let's see. And there's more down here. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that I've gotten into a pod where these crystals actually formed, and they grew up next to each other. Yeah, that's actually got good crystal It's got a termination here and some faces. That'll be interesting to wash off. Okay. All right, well, let's see. Still the same direction. Yeah, I'm just too close to this hole over here, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. Tell you what, I'm going to call it a night, and we will come back here tomorrow, weather permitting. So it's a dreary morning with snow flurries, and so I came back to this hole where I was digging yesterday, and it's full of water. Okay, so I had to spend some time digging a trench here to drain it, and hopefully I'll be able to get most of this water out of here so I can continue digging. So I was just walking back to the car to get my doggies because the sun's actually come out, and I was taking a shortcut and hit this big hot spot, and a beautiful crystal came out, and there's more down there. So let me dig a little bit more. So I'm gonna do a quick accounting of the specimens that I have found this morning. Well, actually, these two were the ones I found last night. They're very nice crystals. I mean, just spectacular. I assume these are columbite, although I'll do a survey a little bit later with my Geiger counter to see if there's any euxenites among here. And then this morning I went back to the same hole and pulled out 2 more specimens. And the hole is still very hot, so I'm sure there's a whole pod of these things. And on the way back to the car is where I pulled this guy out, another perfect crystal, good crystal form, and another one right next to it. So, and the hole is still hot, so I think I found another pod as well. Seems to be that direction. And it's actually turning out to be a pretty nice day if it stays like this. So I went ahead and got my dogs to bring them out and let them enjoy the sunshine. There it is. Boy, judging by how hot this one is, it's little, but it's very hot. This is probably a euxenite. Well, let's see if there's something else down here worth digging. Huh. You know, there's something else down here. But I've got bigger fish to fry. I've got so many holes that I'm gonna move on, and I've got this one marked if I want to come back to it. So there was the hole I was just digging and found that little piece of euxenite. And right above it here, I think I've got another promising spot. I'm trying to get back to my pod over there, but I can't go very far without getting into the hot spot. So this little crystal was actually quite deep in this hole. And there are more specimens down here, so I think I found yet another pod. Oh man. And this is the next one that came out of the hole. Kind of small, but a real nice crystal form. And here's the third one to come out of this hole. Pretty big, but not terribly hot. So it's probably another columbite. And here's the fourth one out of this hole, another nice crystal, got good crystal form. And it's starting to snow. So I took my doggies back to the car so they can be comfortably warm. And the snow's coming down a little harder, but so far it's not a showstopper. And this is preferable to rain. And so I'm looking for other hot spots. I'm kind of giving up on some of the pods just because after I pull a few specimens out, it gets so hard to dig. I'd really like to find the easy ones first. Okay. There's one little one. Looks like a little columbite crystal. So it seems like there are probably some small crystals in here that are adding up. So, yeah, there's probably another one over here too. Oh, here it is. There it is. Okay. So it's probably these two crystals that were adding up to make it seem like a big crystal. And I think I'm gonna move on, see what else I can find in this inclement weather. So I'm just uphill from that pod with the long trench that's underwater at the moment. And I decided to come uphill from there, and I found a nice crystal just sitting there right on the surface. So there's probably more stuff uphill here. And right down there was where I found that last specimen, and just heading uphill. And I think I may have discovered another pretty localized hotspot. Whoa. I didn't even have to find this one with my simulator. I saw it in the bottom of the hole. Look at this massive one. This is probably the second largest that I found out here. It's just a giant columbite, probably tantalite as well. Yeah, that's comparable to the one I found last trip. It really makes the whole trip worthwhile, even if the weather gets really bad. I've at least found some really nice specimens already. And just a little bit further uphill, another nice crystal sitting right on the surface. So I'm real close to the car right down the road. I was actually walking back to the car, and there's a lot of hot spots. This is the actual North Star mine right here, and there are a lot of hot spots in here. Usually I don't bother digging them because you just get into the hot matrix, but this seemed pretty localized, and sure enough there's a nice little specimen in there, and there's a lot more. Evidently it's quite hot. So these are the specimens that I found late last night and early this morning, and then these were the specimens I found in the rest of the morning. They're almost all columbites. There's probably a euxinite or two in here as well, but this one really makes the trip. If I don't find any other specimens, it'll be worthwhile. Well, it's a good thing we had a nice morning for prospecting, because the afternoon is not so great. My dogs and I are hunkered up here in the car, warm and toasty. So this afternoon I'm battling the elements here. It's kind of a blizzard, but this is an interesting little piece. It looks like quite a few twin crystals. So this morning I was on the east side of the car down the hill. This time I went down the hill on the west side, and I'm just finding all kinds of really hot spots, but this is wicked hot. I don't know what it is. I'll have to wash it off. But you see it goes off the scale, and you put this one down, and then there's another one down here. So looked like I fit the jackpot here. Okay, so after finding that big hot crystal, I started digging further in the hole, because the whole hole was so hot, and I ended up pulling off, after about an hour of digging, pulling off this guy here, which is just wicked hot. And in addition to that, ooh, we've got some more in here. But actually, it's not as hot as I would have thought. So I think we've got one more crystal down here. But these are very big crystals. I'm not sure what they are, but I'll go wash them off. So I'm gradually chipping away at the matrix around this thing. But I think that this is the crystal, or it's underneath it or something, because everything around it, whatever it is, it's over in this corner. Well, it only took me about 2 hours to clear out this hole, digging through a lot of quartz and stuff, but these things are really hot. So let me go up and try to wash them off, see what they are. So this morning I'm going to try out a new meter for me that I'm developing, and it's based on the gammaLine. It's an old gammaLine meter, the ASP1 model, and it's a very capable meter all by itself, but I'm adding some features that you've seen in my gammaDog meter that I've used for years. But this is going to be a really souped up version of that. And you know, when we turn it on, it'll give us our random clicking that's typical of a scintillator. But then you heard that it actually quieted down, because it comes up and it sets the squelch, so you don't have to listen to that random clicking all the time as you're searching around, because that can be quite tiring to listen to. But as you get close to a source or a hot spot, you'll start to pick it up. Now, any of y'all that have used a regular Geiger counter with a scintillator, you know that it's hard to listen to that random clicking all the time, and also it's hard to tell subtle differences that allow you to localize a specimen. So what I've done is, I'm gonna turn this upside down here for 10 seconds, and that converts the meter. I call this a gammaLine, by the way, for gammaLine and gammaDog. So this is my gammaLine. So it converts it to gammaLine mode, which converts those random clicks into steady clicks. You'll hear, and as those steady clicks get faster, they actually turn into tones as you get closer. And now you can hear how much easier it is to tell when you're trying to localize a specimen. So let me see what I can find here in this hotspot. So at least this morning it's not snowing. It's cold though. My gloves are frozen. It's below freezing right now. Hopefully it'll warm up a little bit. Oh. So the ground is still warm enough that it's not freezing. It just makes it possible to dig, otherwise it would be impossible. Okay. Seems to be a little bit further to this side. Now, You heard it set to squelch there. Let's see. So that's how you set the squelch. You just turn it on, turn it up a little bit. There it is. Boy, this is just a tiny little thing. Okay, and I've probably got another one over there. So this probably wasn't the best hole to start on with signals that are so weak. So I know I've got other ones in here, but I'm going to move on and find a spot that's a lot hotter. So this spot is a little hotter. It's not wicked hot, but it should be a good place to test out the meter. So you can see it's already, as the clicking gets faster, it'll actually raise up in tone, which will sound more like the gammaDog does. So let's see. Oops, I moved it already. Which means it's going to be pretty small. Could be a piece of monocyte. Here we go. Well, no, it's a big piece of columbite. Look at that. Yeah. So after finding that first big columbite crystal, I decided to, keep looking around in this area. I've been digging a few holes, and this one in particular looked promising. And it looks like a really nice crystal. Really nice. Got lots of facets on it. And you can hear that it actually is strong enough to cause the tone to raise up a little bit on my gammaLine meter. So anyway, that's a nice find. So I continue to look around this area where I find those two nice crystals. And I think I found another spot that looks promising. Let's see what I do with my gloves. I think I must have left them at the other spot. I'll be right back. Okay. Pretty strong signal. Very localized, so shouldn't take me long to find it unless it's a really big one buried deep. This is actually looks like a little hill of tailings from the mine. Whoops, I think I moved it. Where is it? There it is. It's over here someplace. Okay, it's down here. There we go. And there it is. Another nice crystal. Either columbite or, I would say it's probably columbite just because it's not that strong to be euxenite. So this I thought was a pretty strong signal, but it turned out that's what it sounded like. It turned out to be just a tiny little crystal. You know, it's probably a little euxenite crystal. And just about 10 feet away was another nice columbite crystal. Now, just for comparison, let's look at this. Let's hear what this columbite sounds like. It's a little bit hotter than that tiny euxenite, but that kind of shows you the difference. So right there, actually at the top of this little knoll is where I got that one specimen you saw me dig out. And then the last big columbite crystal I got was right here. I just pulled it out with my boot. And here is another hole that somebody started. It could have been me some number of trips ago, but it's got a nice strong signal. So I'm not sure why anybody, including myself, would stop digging here, but let me give it a try. So I'm still working on this knoll. At the top was where I found that first specimen, and then down below, about right there, is where I pulled that specimen out with my boot. And so I've been digging in this hole probably 2 hours, and you'll see why I've been putting so much effort into it, because I have pulled 8 crystals out of here, including a couple that are really nice. One in particular is just spectacular. So I just keep digging, but then it occurred to me that when do I know to stop digging? So I'm going to do something I've never done before, and that's measure the hole to get an idea. I mean, there's stuff in here, but now I'm going to compare it to what I pulled out of the hole. So I'm going to conclude from that there's more stuff in that hole, but at this point I pulled the big stuff out, the good stuff out, and I may come back later and check it out. But that's a new technique for me. Well, so it's time to summarize what went on this morning. It was the virgin test of my new gammaLine survey meter, and as I mentioned before, it consists of an gammaLine model ASP1, and I've augmented it with a little daughter board inside that turns it into a souped up gammaDog. I've got some work still to do on it. it performed quite well, as you can see. But one thing that's apparent to me, even before I brought it out here, is I need to improve the audio. The original audio is designed to work for clicks, and it actually works very well for clicks, but it's not designed to produce tones very well. So I'm probably going to have to augment the circuitry with a little audio amplifier and maybe even replace the speaker. But so it's a work in progress. And of course, the other thing that I'm going to have to do is create some 3D printed, create a cover. I created these 3D printed stand combination hanger for the scintillator. And now I realize after a morning out there that the meter itself can get very dirty, and these switches and this BNC connector are exposed, and they really need to be protected. So I'm going to create a 3D printed cap that I can just put right on top of here to protect everything and keep it clean. So that's some of my plans for this meter before I start selling it. So let's take a look what we found this morning. I guess I'll get over here. Now, these were the first ones that I found. You know, really nice crystals, probably columbite. And I especially like this one. It looked like it was going to be probably the best crystal that I found this morning. It's got nice striations on the side. It's just a perfect crystal. Now, then I got into that pod, and I started pulling out stuff right and left. Now, this is a perfect crystal. I mean, this is just a spectacular specimen. One of the best that I found out here in Petaca. You can see it's just a perfectly formed crystal with a termination and faces, and very typical. I found other crystals like this, and they have this kind of point where they're connected to the matrix, and that's where I believe they start to grow, but then they have the freedom to grow out into a real crystal instead of being like something like this that has some crystal form, but you can tell it grew up next to something and it turned into a less than perfect crystal form. This one is better. It's got a nice termination. But yeah, that alone made the morning and maybe even the trip, because that's a beautiful specimen. So it's now late in the afternoon after that successful morning where I was on that side of the wash. There's a little wash here, and I found most of the stuff on that side of the wash. And spent a little bit of time on this side, but never found very much. So I thought, let me go ahead and spend more time on this side and see what I can find. And sure enough, I've got something over here. It wasn't easy to find though. So there doesn't appear to be as many on this side. I don't know what that means. Pretty good signal. Pretty strong signal. But I'm right into some rocks too. I'm hoping that whatever this thing is not embedded in the rocks here. Boy, this is just solid rock. Huh. What could that be? I don't know about this one. It doesn't look like it's weathered out, whatever it is. Looks like it's probably if I had some water, I could wash this off. And this is probably one giant. Well, this is going through, so at least I'm one end of this rock. Well, I thought I did. Not so sure. Yeah, this is just, must be directly in the pegmatite. Well, I got under this other one. Yeah, I got under one of them. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if that's going to help at all. Because the crystal is in this other rock someplace. And I don't suppose there's any way to get under this one. Try to find the contours of this rock, see if there's any way that it could be lifted up. I don't know why I want to spend so much effort on this, but I've already found so many good specimens that I can afford to try something new. Let's see if boy. I just don't think this rock is going to budge. And even if I could get it out, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Wouldn't be able to move it. Okay. I think I've come to my senses now, and I'm going to move on to easier pickings. So the past 2 days I've spent on the east and west side of the hill where I park at the top. And this time I decided to come down the south side where Phil and I found a bunch of very interesting specimens that were a combination, many of them a combination of columbite and euxinite. And I came back to the same spot, and there are lots of holes here where we've dug previously. But there's still some hot spots here. So this one may even get out with my boot. But I'll get out my shovel. Well, it's hard to get my gloves on today because they're frozen solid. But they'll warm up. And it looks like we could get some sun today, which will be a welcome reprieve from all the cold and snow that we've had since I've gotten here. Right over here someplace. I don't know whether I need to lift up this big rock or not, but just get it out of the way for good measure. Another one of these big sedimentary flat rocks that sometimes I find the specimen underneath them, which is really strange. Yeah, this thing was right underneath that big flat rock. Like I found any number of other specimens. It makes you think that these crystals must have formed and then ended up on the seabed someplace where this rock can form from the sediments, and then this whole area was lifted up into a mountain range. Kind of mind-boggling, the time scale that we're talking about. Well, yeah, it's right down in there. Okay. Yep. That was it. There it is. Okay, I can tell by how hot this is. This is probably mostly euxenite. Yeah, nice little crystal. So one thing I discovered about coming out here when there's a little bit of snow on the ground is that you can actually use it to your advantage to systematically survey an area. See, I've got a bunch of footprints down here, and so I've been crossing, following my footprints, and it allows me to systematically cover an area without crossing my path too many times and wasting time. But here I found another hole I'm gonna dig. It's a hot one. Well, did it fall off? I think it must have fallen off. Where'd it go? There it is. Well, it's a little guy. I'm sure it's a euxenite. Nice little crystal. Boy, you would have thought this would be a monster. Let me make sure there's not something else in here. Nope, that was it. Well, this one was a pretty weak signal on the surface, but look at this, it's like a perfect pyramid. How sharp is that? Just a perfect little crystal. I wasn't sure whether it was worth digging, but it sure was. So this is not 10 feet from where I pulled out that little pyramid. So this ability to follow my tracks in the snow and very systematically cover this area is paying off, because I'm finding not all the big specimens that we found before, but I'm definitely finding some nice little ones. And I still hold out hope that I'll find another couple of big ones. Oh, yep, I already pulled it out. I think I see it there. Nope. Which one is it? This one. Yeah. Oh, that's another nice, relatively small crystal, but it's got good crystal form to it. So those are the last two holes that I just dug, and I think I found another promising spot here. This one turned out to be another nice crystal. Got good crystal form, and pretty hot, probably euxenite. So this one is very close to, there's the hole I just dug that last one out of, but it's really buried. It was underneath this log first. I moved the log, and then there was this big slab of sedimentary rock. I moved that as well, and it's still in there. Okay, this is quite interesting because in that last hole that I was digging, I actually was pulling up several pieces that have fractures on them. And after I found the first piece and saw the fracture, I went in and found another piece with a fracture, and then another piece with a fracture. So I'm pretty sure that these are probably pieces of the same specimen. But even more amazing, remember that little pyramid that I found? Is I noticed that there was a triangular fracture on this one, and it turns out that that little pyramid fits right in that fracture. So I found both pieces in two different holes. The pyramid is about 15 feet below this one. So there's quite an interesting history on this specimen. So I've kept digging in this hole and pulled out 4 more specimens. Now, the two on the right, this one especially, doesn't appear to have a fracture at all. So I think it's another separate crystal. This one here could have a fracture over here. So that may be part of the same specimen. This little one here also has a fracture. So that may be part of the same specimen. And this is a random piece of monosite here. So there's a whole collection of stuff here in this hole. And so I'm thinking that I must be into a pod. This must be where the stuff actually weathered out of the pegmatite. And one of my theories is that as these specimens get exposed, as they weather out, they actually end up breaking off. The exposed part breaks off, and you know, moves a little bit downhill, and then you know, some thousands of years later, another piece will be exposed and will break off due to, you know, freezing and thawing, and that's how they end up in sometimes in multiple pieces. So that's, anyway, that's my theory. And right below that big hole, I found another little hot spot and dug it, and this one looks quite a bit different. It's a lot darker. I don't see a fracture. Maybe that's a fracture. So anyway, this little spot is just rich with specimens. So I was walking back to the car from that last series of finds, and I think I found myself a nice piece of monocyte. This would be, you know, the first big one that I found on this trip. So it's shortly before lunchtime, but not quite lunchtime. So I'm just thought I'd check out this area right next to the car, and I think I found a nice spot to dig. I think this is a euxenite crystal, or part of one anyway, because it's got a fracture on it.